Okay. For a very long time, even when we were growing up as little boys in primary school, we used to do those debates of, which one is better than the other. Self-employment is better than formal employment and all that. I wouldn't really say that self-employment is better than formal employment or vice versa. I would say which one is better than the other varies from one person to another based on a number of factors. Yeah. So I cannot just outrightly say that when you quit employment and you get yourself into self-employment, then you'll enjoy it, better than when you were employed. It depends with many factors. Based on my experience, I think that is important. Based on my experience, when I was employed, truth be told, joy, I had no time for myself. And I know I'm speaking for so many people out there in the corporate and in other fields as well. People hardly have time for themselves. So for me, when I compare because I've been in both, I was in employment for about 10 years. I was first in CPC for 8 years. Then I was working with this NGO ICS for about 3 years before I got fired. Then a year or two after then, I got into self-employment, which I've now done for about 8 years or so. So I have a taste of both ends. And I would say this, when I got into what I'm doing today, I have a lot of time with family than I had when I was employed. And I have a lot of time today, for my own personal reflection and growth. Because sometimes you could be working for people, you could be working for organizations out there, and your input as an individual makes the organization to grow, yet you're not growing as an individual. So there are very few who've got, time for personal development and growth. So looking at it from my own personal experience, I've been able to grow my self-joy. I've been able to empower myself. I went back to school when I got out of my first employment after 8 years. I got time to go to PAC, that is Pan-African Christian University. I did a course in leadership. I wouldn't have been able to do that probably if I was still in CPC or something. And after that, I've done a couple of many other things. I've done some courses here and there, some diplomas and certificates, just to empower myself as an individual. Because again, I got into a very competitive field, and it was very important for me to grow, to empower myself, so that I measure up to the expected standards. Because again, consultancy is demanding and involving, and you have to be growing every other day. You must have content whenever you are engaging with people in the corporate, because I do a lot of training for corporates. I do team building for organizational staff. I meet different, I meet people from different walks of life. That places a demand on me for growth. One thing that I've always believed is this, Joy. When growth stops, decay begins. A lot of people are decaying. They are not able to lead meaningful lives because somehow, somewhat, they stopped growing. So when growth stops, decay begins. We all stink in the areas we have refused to grow. So I keep telling people, check out, place scrutiny on yourself, examine yourself and get to know in which area in your life do we have odo, oduor. Where are you working with oduor, odo, from which area of your life are you stinking, and find a way of growing yourself in that specific area. Now, for me as a person, like I've already said, I've been able to grow. I've been able to empower myself. I've been able to take care of my family better than I did when I was employed. I have more time with my son. I have more time to take my wife out than when I was employed. And Sophie will tell you that. Yes, when I was employed, I used to take her outside, not out. You know, yes. Of course, a couple of times I took her out. But now we have more time to go out and just have fun. I have time for my son as well. And I've seen the same for my wife, Sophie. Because Sophie, again, after I'd been in self-employment for some time, I found a way now of helping my wife now to begin doing her own craft. Because she's been, you know, employed. She's served under different employers, just like me. I think 3 or 4. But I think we got tired because she was not doing much as far as her own growth is concerned. And so we found a way of getting her into something. And so she started Hadassah occasions. She does a lot of, you know, event stuff, event organization and planning. She does decor and she does catering as well. You know that, I'm sure. And I've been able to see her grow. I've seen her also just the same way, the same experiences I'm having in my self-employment. She's having the same as well. She has time for us. She has time for herself and all that. Yes. And she's been able to do a couple of courses for herself as well. Yes. She's been able to identify some of the things she thought she needed to do when she was in formal employment, yet she couldn't get time joy to do them. Now, when she got out of formal employment, she's done a couple of courses and graduated. Yes. So if you ask me, self-employment is something. Yes. Yes. Wonderful. That is a very important question, Joy, because we live in a world today where everyone knows salaries are never enough. Everyone, it's shocking, Joy, that even some of the people that are thought to be enjoying, you know, their positions in the corporate, you know, CEOs and managers, a number of them are getting into side hustles. Yes, I know I have friends who are senior managers, you know, corporate leaders, and I can be, you know, I have a matatu here doing some transport, doing M-Pesa, you know, those kind of things. So it is important to do that, but again, I will say it depends. It depends, because there are people, again, whose jobs, by virtue of their specific positions in their formal employment, could be very involving. So involving, I had a friend of mine who hardly, just like I've said in my previous explanation, this fella hardly has time for anything apart from his job. Like I was saying, I've a friend of mine who is a senior corporate leader, and this guy flies all over. You know, today he's in South Africa. 2 days after, he'll be telling you, I'm in Accra. You know, then he closes the week in Mozambique, then he's in Netherlands. So for such like a person, probably engaging in a side hustle may not be very practical. So I think it varies from one person to another based on what you do, what your specific roles and duties, what are your responsibilities in formal employment. But like for many of us who think salaries are never enough, and so you have to be doing something on the sides, again, it's very, very possible. And why is this important, Joy? One thing I've come to realize, today, so many people know or have this feeling, I will one day get into business full time. I could be a manager in the bank. I could be working here, there, you know, in whatever position. But many people are figuring out, they're trying to envision being in self-employment one time. Now for such, I always advise, don't wait until you're fired, like Smee was. For me, there wasn't much I was doing in formal employment for myself. you know. So I tell people, try doing something on the sides in a very small way and let it be a build-up, so that by the time, because I tell people, the same way you prepare for employment, the same way you are preparing to get a job, when you get it, please start preparing for losing it. And it doesn't matter how you lose it. You may lose it by being fired, being summarily dismissed. Something could happen at your workplace, and finally, you are terminated, your duties are terminated. So whichever way you exit employment, the thing is this: start figuring out, start preparing yourself. Should this happen, how do I go about it? So it's because of that. I think that places now, it proves the necessity of doing something on the sides. It doesn't necessarily mean that you don't really trust your employer. No. The thing is, you begin small. Even as you're employed, there's something that is running on the sides. And that helps you to smoothly transition. What I'm saying is important for transitioning, so that you don't get outside there and you have no idea where to start from. So most of the people who are doing something from the sides, finally when their duties are terminated, they have it easier than those who never prepared at all. I think, Joy, that is how I'll put it. That is how I'll put it. And I wanted to say, it is very possible. Yeah, for example, if you're working from 8 to 5, and let's say you have this M-Pesa shop in town, and it is possible to be concentrating on that small business of yours probably from, let's say, 6 maybe to 8 p.m. It's possible. If it all calls for discipline. Discipline is the key word, because if you give yourself, for example, to alcohol, I think you're going to find it very hard. If you are 3 hours or 4 hours before you go home in the evening are to be productive. So to me, it's about discipline. How do you balance yourself between side hustling and your time for your employer? It calls for a lot of discipline. You need to find a way of striking an equilibrium balance between what you're doing for yourself and what you're doing for your employer. It is workable, it's a good thing to do, and I'm telling those who are employed, please start it before it is too late. And what do you need? You need discipline. So that when you've decided that I'm going to be giving myself 4 hours after I've left office at 5, after I've left office at 6, probably it's 2 hours or even 1 hour. Maybe there's something you'll be doing on your laptop at home. Let's say, for example, you've discovered that you're an author, and so you're going to be writing books. You could say, before I go to bed, maybe after you've taken your dinner, maybe from 9 to 11 p.m., every night you'll be writing something. All you need is discipline, because I'll assure you, Joy, that there are many things that will want your time between 9 and 11. So you need a lot of discipline, you need a lot of boundaries if you have to properly manage your time. Thank you. Wow. You remind me of what happened the other day, when the president seemed to be giving some oldies some very influential and lucrative positions in the government. And a number of those persons were really old, the likes of Modi Awori. And there was, I'm sure you remember that, there was an uproar from the young generation. They're wondering, this government talks of creating jobs for us. How come they're giving jobs to old people like this? But someone asked, how many are qualified for it? If we came now to the young people, how many have what Modi Awori has in terms of experience? How many? So probably that is where we miss out. We want jobs, yes, but do we measure up? Do we have what it takes? And so that places a demand on us for what I just said, growth, branding. To what level have you built your personal brand? So that when you get yourself outside there, when you get yourself out there for a job, you make sense to the president, you make sense to that, corporate leader, you make sense to that director of a school who wants to get, that position of a principal filled up. Why should he, as a director of a school, settle on a 27-year-old as opposed to a 50-year-old? Put yourself in the shoes of the director. So it is okay when we say we want to get positions of employment, when we say we want to compete with our elders and those who are getting, all these jobs out there. But the question is, are we going to deliver? Are we going to deliver? So I'm calling every young person out there, be doing, learning is a continuous process. Don't say, now that I have a master's, I qualify to become a manager. Now that I have, a PhD, and I have these titles before my name, I qualify to become a director of a company. Probably not. Probably not. You not yet there. You need to prove it. And how do you prove it? You prove it by letting the world see the fibers you're made of. And so, young people, don't be cheated by this thing called degree from the university, because that is where the greatest deception is. No wonder, Joy, as we speak today, we have people in companies, we have people in institutions out there who may not necessarily be having all those papers, but when it comes to delivering, they deliver better than us, who went through universities. They deliver better than the many young people who are saying, I have a degree, I have a master's. Hey, it's no longer about degrees. It's no longer about those masters. I know of a young person, when I was working with CPC, of course I did chemical engineering and I was working with CPC. I know of young people who came from universities, JKUAT University, Moy University, and guess what? They couldn't even hold a spanner. Are you seeing what I'm talking about, Joy? So it's not just about having a degree. It's not just about saying, hey, I've gone to school. No. The thing is this, would you be able to deliver? Every employer outside there is looking for someone who will be able to deliver. Delivery it is. It's the game changer. And so today we go to supermarkets, and who are the managers? Some of them finished from for a long time ago, and the people working under them have masters. And I'm not discouraging anyone from having those masters. Please, if time allows, if resources allow, if you get an opportunity to, excel in academia, why not? But I'm saying that shouldn't be the reason of chest thumping and saying, I have a degree. No. Young people, let us develop ourselves and start. I said this earlier on. We all start climbing up the ladder of success from the bottom. The only person that begins doing something from the top and finishes from the bottom is a grave digger. Because when you're digging the grave, you start from the top and finish from the bottom. So it doesn't matter your level of education. Young people, hear me and hear me really good. Get your hands busy. That is what I want every young person to hear me. It doesn't matter your level of education. Be doing something. Be doing something. I love these young people. I was somewhere the other day, and I was served by a waitress in a hotel. And I remember this girl very well. This girl was doing her master's in Moy University. And I was like, hey, you're here? And she says, why not? Right now and here, calling upon every young person to get their hands busy. even if it means denying them joy, so be it. I am so much inspired by young people from universities who are selling charcoal. Like I had already said, there's a young girl I met in a small restaurant as a waitress, yet she has a whole master's. And I like, it's about attitude. Young people, let's have the right attitude. Listen, you cannot get out of university and the next thing you want to become is a manager. That's a wrong attitude. Get to do something, and whatever it is, you'll be doing it with people who've never gone to school. You'll be doing it with Form 4 leavers. It is okay. It is okay. It is an experience of life that is making you better. And I can assure you, if you handle it well, it's going to become a stepping stone into your next level. So it's about attitude. It's about attitude. So let's build ourselves as young people. Because like I've already indicated, every employer out there is interested in one thing: delivery. So you don't go there hitting your chest saying, I have a master's. Who cares? Who cares? Finally, when a Form 4 leaver does your role better than you, how do you explain that? When someone who has done a certificate for 6 months is a better front office personality than you, who has done public relations from more university, how do you explain that? How do you explain that? So it is not just about degrees, diplomas. No. Let's walk. And I can assure you, with the right attitude, we'll move from one level down there to another, to another, to another. That's what I wanted to say. Now, I wanted to share something briefly on what I'm referring as to the greatest loss. And this is in relation to what we're experiencing today as a result of the global pandemic. So many people have lost their jobs. In Kenya alone, we have more than 1 million people that have already been laid off. Companies and businesses are shutting down. People are losing jobs, and not just jobs. We've also had other losses as well. We've lost friends and we've lost relatives to COVID-19 as a disease. But I wanted to remind you, there is what I'm referring as to the greatest loss. There is a man I know in history that lost his own life, and through the loss of his life, many people in the entire world have been able to find their footing, have been able to find themselves. And that's why I call it the greatest loss. That he lost his own life that we may all live. And this man is called Jesus Christ, the Son of God. That is the greatest loss that I came to know. He lost his life that I may live. He lost his life that you may live. You can't compare that to your job loss experience. You can't compare that to having lost anything in this life. And so I wanted to suggest to everyone under the sound of my voice, would you find out about this greatest loss? Would you subscribe to the lordship of this man, that through his loss or the loss of his life, the whole world today has hope? And you can find hope today in your loss experience, whatever it is that you've lost. You may have lost a beloved one. You've lost a relative. You've lost a job. Whatever it is that you've lost, I want you to know there is no greatest loss than the loss of this man's life that has brought hope to the entire world. And so I suggest to you, would you please get to hang out with this guy called Jesus, this man Jesus, whose loss was the greatest. And through understanding his loss of life, you'll be able to find everything meaningful in your own life. Get Jesus, get to walk in his ways, love God, and in Him you will find yourself. We talked about discovering yourself. We talked about discovery being recovery. That when you discover yourself, you recover your lost dignity. You recover your relevance and significance in this face of the earth. That is not possible outside God. Just like a fish will be very desperate outside water as an ecosystem, and a fish will find it very difficult to exist and to live outside water, so is a man outside God. And so I suggest to everyone who is hearing me now, get to find yourself in God by knowing about the greatest loss. And the greatest loss, what is it? It's the loss of the life of a man who decided willingly to lose his life that we may all find ourselves. Thank you for listening. God bless you.